Good evening, everyone. Welcome to today's session. We're just waiting for others to join, then we'll be able to start. My name is Eugene Okich for Capabuil Limited. I want to invite you, take this opportunity to invite each and everyone who has managed to join us today. Invite your friends, invite your colleagues, so that we're able to learn together. So we're going to start at exactly 7:30, 5:30 rather, sorry for that, so that we continue with today's learning. Yeah, thank you very much for your replies. Yes, confirm that you can hear me. You can text. Thank you very much. Yes, Edmond. Yes, Vivian. Yakundi. Yes. Gabriel. Yes. Thank you very much. Keep on typing. Keep on telling us what's your expectation for today. Before we start the session, we have 3 minutes to start the session. I believe you can all see my screen. I believe you can all see my screen. You can confirm if my screen is able to be seen. Can you, somebody to type that my screen is visible? Jacqueline, karibu sana. Karibu sana, Ian, Alice. Yes, my screen is visible. I hope you can see as our coming data series. These are data and analytics related trainings that we have for the first quarter, the first half of the month, beginning from February next month, March, April, and May. Remember, we are offering a discount for a group of 5, pay 50,000. For a group of 5 and above, we are offering a discount. Our training are very, very flexible. You can choose your venues: Mombasa, Kisumu, Nairobi, Naivasha, and also Machakos. And recently we introduced Eldoret City. So in case you want a training, you can call us on the number below, or email us at info@capabuil.com. Karibu sana. Feel free. We are about to start our session today. Invite your friends, invite your colleague as we tackle day 2 of the program. Yes, The session is free. The session is free for those who are asking. We are not required to pay anything. You can invite your friends, invite your colleagues to join this wonderful session that we've organized. This session is organized in partnership with ICT Authority. So feel free to join and invite your friends. We will begin in the next 2 minutes. We are about to begin our session today. The session is free. There's no problem if you're sharing the devices. There's no problem. Rose, karibu sana for today's session. Just to remind for those who are joining, you can see my screen. These are upcoming data analytics series program that we have organized for you. Feel free to join us. Feel free to inbox us so that we may give you more information. And remember, we are offering a discount for a group of 5. You pay 50,000 each for this wonderful and well-created programs. So, karibu sana. Welcome to day 2, cybersecurity and emerging tech awareness training. Karibu sana. I can see we are still joining. Also, feel free to ask as many questions as possible. You can ask as the session is proceeding so that you'll be able to answer all the questions at the end of this webinar. For those who did not attend tomorrow, follow us on our YouTube channel and you'll be able to receive the trainings that took place yesterday. Just search Capabuil Limited in your YouTube device. Remember to subscribe for more training updates and more training, security and trainings. You will be able to find the training for yesterday. And also for those, one reason or the other, may not be able to attend the full training of today, you will also be able to follow us on YouTube to find the entire training. This training is currently being streamed live on YouTube. Feel free to share the link. We can post shortly in our comments section. Feel free. And remember, this training session is being held in partnership with ICT Authority, Google and ICT Authority. So feel welcome. We are not required to pay anything. Invite more friends as possible. So we are going to begin our session today. We are going to begin our session today. It was waiting for us to reach 300 people. And we have reached there. We've reached that number. So I'll invite the first to take us through more on what we learned yesterday and also build on what we are expected of us today. So feel free, you can ask as many questions as possible. Thank you very much. So first you can take over the mic.
Okay. Sorry. I think the room today is not very brightly lit, but most important is you can hear me. So, first things first, I should have a colleague of mine called Michael join us. Let's see if Michael has joined. Supposed to help me facilitate today. Just give me a minute. Let me see if he's able to join. In the meantime, please, of course, let us know in the chat who you are, where you're tuning in from. It's always good to appreciate the diversity of the group, both in terms of what you do, probably the town or the city that you are tuning in from, probably which organization or government agency, etc. So please let us know in the chat. Also, pardon me in case there are any background noises. I am just I'm in a conference hall actually. So today was part of an AI conference run by the government and some partners. So we're just getting done. So I have to take this call before I hit the road. So I see we have a bunch of students. We have counseling psychology. We have guys from Nairobi, guys from Kakamega, guys from Mtwapa, Mombasa, Eldoret, and on and on and on. Okay. Sawa sawa. Okay, great. So, today's a continuation of what we did yesterday. So, if you're in the room, you'll appreciate that yesterday we covered a few things. One, just the basics of the what and the why of cybersecurity, and then importantly, having an overview of what the security landscape looks like in terms of threats and attacks. And then, of course, through the process, we also discuss some of the things that you can do personally, individually, organizationally, to be able to sort of counter these threats and attacks. And today we are going to go deeper into the defenses um, um, to those particular threats and attacks. So we're going to do it in three ways, two ways actually. So one, we'll appreciate cybersecurity at organizational level, and then two, we'll appreciate personal cybersecurity, that is you as an individual. And then lastly, we shall also appreciate emerging technology. So I hope my colleague will also be joining us, particularly for emerging technology. He's a far better resource than me. I must appreciate for those particular technologies. But either way, um, I think we are good to go. So moderator and host, could you give me 5 minutes? Maybe not five, maybe 3 minutes. Let me just handle something here kidogo. Moderator, is it okay if you can give me like 3 minutes?
All right. Yes. Yeah.
Good. Yes, give me a minute.
Thank you very much. Keep typing, keep commenting the place you are in the organization so that we're able to understand the background and the diversity of the team that we are having today. At your free time also, feel free to visit capabuil.com website and see the list of training we have. Thank you very much, Penny. You can see we have students, we have professionals, and also counseling experts from various places. Keep on typing. So we will begin shortly. Just also to remind us that the certificate will be offered at the end of this training. We will give more direction on how you'll be able to download your certificate. No payment will be required. At this moment, there's no money required or any finances required from your end. This training is sponsored by ICT Authority and Capabuil Limited to ensure we upgrade ourselves and upskill ourselves when it comes to cybersecurity. So ensure you follow us on our LinkedIn channel, on our Facebook and Twitter channels for more upcoming trainings on cybersecurity as we start shortly.
Sorry, guys, I had to get a glass of. It's not very good. I think it's the cold is setting in. All right, cool. So lastly, before I jump on, so feel free to use the chat and the Q&A to drop your questions, your comments, or any concerns you might have. I'll be looking at the chat as we go along, so that we can address some things as we go, and then also later on we will be taking. I'll be taking some of those questions in a proper Q&A session. So here we go. Great. All right, moderator, can you confirm that I'm still audible? Moderator, can you still hear me? Or anyone, if you can hear me, just give me a thumbs up or a yes in the chat. Let me know that I am. Yes. Good. Sawa sawa. So thanks guys again for coming. So as I've mentioned, we are looking today. We are considering cybersecurity at both organizational and individual level. And I find this very useful and important because we need to appreciate how cybersecurity operates within these two contexts, right? Where we have an organization that essentially has a more structured approach, more strategic approach, can have extensive operational investment and capability to handle cybersecurity. And then also at an individual level where you have to figure out tools that can help you ensure personal safety. You need to understand, some of the issues that can affect you at individual level, can help you appreciate why cybersecurity is important for individual, and then go ahead and actually put some measures at the very least within the various ways and means or places with which you interact with the interwebs and even the society at large. So first things first, generally when you talk about cybersecurity, in this case, we're looking at defenses. As I mentioned yesterday, we covered a bit extensively about some of the common cybersecurity threats and attacks. And the reason was to be able to appreciate what can go wrong. Typically, that is the first question. Or rather, it's a second question. So there's something we call a threat model. So a threat model, if you can go a bit technical, is just a way to appreciate what are the threat and attacks that could potentially happen, and then organize those threats and attacks in a way that is that you're able to understand how these threats and attacks can happen from the beginning to end, and how they can happen, right? The process they can go through, the different techniques and mechanisms. So when you're thinking mentally about threats and attacks, so you can create something you call a threat model. And the first question you typically ask is what are we building? What is our process? What is our organization? What is our product? What solution are we developing? If you're developing solutions, but I want us to not think so much about solutions and products and all that, because we might not be building or even producing those ones and shipping to market. But then we can think just mentally, abstractly. We can think about within the organization, what do you do? What do you do? What are your operations? And what do you have offered to the world, right? As an organization, as an individual, you can think about who am I, right? What is my digital life look? What does my digital life looks like, right? Which tools do I use? Which platforms do I visit? Which places do I deposit and use my data? Questions like that. So those sort of become your what you build or your products or your services, if you can think of it that way. So basically that is the first question. Who am I? What am I building? What value am I creating and offering to the world? And because we are living in a very imperfect world, and good and bad things happen to good people, we normally say, the moment you typically are under what all of us are under the sun. For as long as you're under the sun, something bad is bound to happen, right? So that's then when we come to question number two, which is what could go wrong. Yes, this is what I do, this is what I build, this is the value I create and ship to the world. But while I'm doing this, there are many odds that could stand against me. To the odds, for example, typically we have the odds of the economic situation. The economy is doing very bad that you probably can't manage your supply chain. You can't buy products to sell. You can't, as an organization, for example, as an individual, you probably can't make your ends meet, right? Yet you're trying to attain a certain lifestyle or live in a certain way. You see, so you have something that you're working towards, but there are always constraints along the way. So that's what question two is about. What could potentially go wrong? Okay, so all of us can appreciate these two questions and apply them to all areas of our lives. Essentially, what that will help us do, will help you do is have a sixth sense. And we normally say security is a sixth sense, particularly for professionals. You can have a sixth sense regarding safety. That while you're moving around the world, while you're exploring the interwebs, the internet, and using all those apps and applications and services, you ask yourself, well, I'm trying to build something or communicate with someone or share my experiences online, etc., etc. What could go wrong? I mean, what are the bad things that could happen to me while I'm using the internet? So that's the sense of why we then need to focus on defenses, how we can defend ourselves, some of the controls we can put to ensure that we keep ourselves safe at the end of the day. And it's not just you as an individual; it could be you and your family, you and your children. This safety can cascade the same way yesterday we appreciated that if some threats can happen or some attacks can happen, it can only not only happen to you as an individual, but the impacts of the harms or the impacts of that particular threat being materialized, then can have a ripple effect to the people around you, to your social network, right? So let's look at why defenses are important. And I think this is a no-brainer. We all appreciate we need security. One is data protection. So data protection here basically just means we are protecting data, and particularly data that belongs to each of us as individuals. That is very, very important. Of course, for businesses and organizations, there are all sorts of data, business information that needs to be protected. So we are protecting it from threats and attacks, but at the same time, by doing that protection, we also ensure that we respect and value the rights and freedoms, particularly of individuals or our stakeholders within our organizations. And stakeholders here is not just an organizational concept. It includes our own personal relationships. Respecting the privacy of your friend. You just don't share your friend's photo just anyhowly or anywhere, right? You have to be conscious, maybe ask them for permission. The same way you just don't share your friend's number to anyone because they have asked you to share with me a certain person's number. You probably need to understand why do they need it. Can I go and get permission first before I share, right? So even that is a defense. You're not just doing something, you're asking yourself why and what and for what purpose. So all that falls under data protection, and we shall be looking a lot about data protection from a governance and regulatory perspective tomorrow. Secondly, we need to maintain business. So maintaining business here means that yes, while we are operating as an organization, there are certain constraints we face. There are certain risks, right, that we face. And I normally say there are two key things that all businesses try to do. One, you're actually trying to build and sell and make profit, right? That's the purpose of a business. But the other key thing that you must do is to manage risks, right? Manage risks, all sorts of risks: operational risk, market risks, regulations, risk related to regulations, and etc. So all those sorts of risks. right? Because remember, while you're trying to make profits, there are many odds against you, as I've already mentioned. So you have to figure out how to manage those odds. You have to prepare, you have to anticipate the bad things that would happen. Prepare by potentially setting up some controls and measures, etc., etc. But there's always an eventuality that happens. Here we mean that at some point, no matter how much security measures or operational controls you have put in place, bad things can still happen because no security is 100% and no security can never be enough, right? So in case there's um, a risk that has materialized, there's an attack that has happened successfully to your organization, then you need to be able to still continue to do business as much as possible. And that is where we talk about continuity, business continuity, right? So you need to have prepared and put in some measures that will allow you to still continue doing business, even if it is how do you call it, a toned down operational process, even if it means stopping to deliver the services digitally and going the manual way using pen and paper, etc. So whatever that looks like, you need to be able to have some controls that helps you still continue operating as an organization. Otherwise, if you shut down, that means you're not generating value anymore. Another important thing is trust. So customer trust. And you can scratch the word customer and just talk about trust in itself, because trust can apply between an organization and their customers, can apply between two individuals or groups of individuals. Like I've said, if it is between you and your friend, you've established a friendship that is supposed to be built on trust. But then you go ahead and share your friend's number without asking their permission, or and then even bad things can happen to your friend, right? Your friend can be cyber stalked, maybe because you share their photos anyhowly, right? You'll definitely that situation will injure the trust that you have between you two as friends. So that's why trust is fundamentally important. So if you're conscious and aware, and that is why we are doing these awareness sessions, you will then be able to, before sharing those photos or personal information, be able to really think twice, in that sense. And then lastly, and very important, compliance. And this is particularly for organizations. They're set, as I've said, risk is a big issue for any organization. You manage risk for you to be able to still continue to do business efficiently and effectively. Okay. And part of managing that risk requires you to comply to certain standards, comply to certain obligations, either obligations that have been issued by government or obligations that have been issued by industry bodies, regulators, and et cetera, et cetera. So we shall appreciate this more as we go along. So some are saying that they can't see my slides. So let me reshare. Let me reshare. Let me reshare. Then you can confirm to me that you can see a slide that is written importance of cybersecurity defenses. So we have the slide that is titled importance of cybersecurity defenses. Are you able to see now? I see yes, 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 yes. Okay, good. Sawa, sawa. So I am moving on to the next slide. I hope you see it moving. Okay, good. So I've already mentioned that we are talking about organization today a bit because we must appreciate that as much as we are individuals, we are part of groups and teams, whether that is an organization formally set up, or it is your chama, or it is your church, right? Whatever setup that is. Um, so I just want to have a quick view of what we discussed yesterday, and this is some of the common cyber threats. As you can see on is it your left or your right? Yesterday we talked about malwares, which is a general family of all the malicious softwares that can be used to, to infect an attack. So things like viruses, ransomwares, things like worms, etc., etc. And there are also various types of worms, for example. And then also we talked about phishing attack quite extensively, looking at the different types of phishing. Where we discussed that phishing is is just a technique that relies on deception, deceiving people to give you information or to give you certain form of access in whatever way, and it could be targeted to people who have high access to information, your CEOs, your board members, your senior managers, those people who have high level of access, or it could be you to your kawaida, anyone really, kawaida staff or kawaida worker within the organization based on, the nature of the attack that is at play. I know yesterday we didn't discuss denial of service, but I just high level mention is when you talk about denial of service, we are basically just talking about denying a person access to a particular service. That is why it is called denial of service. So this means that a cybersecurity incident, or rather a hacker can hack a system and then disrupt that system or take that system offline or just shut down that system, making so that whoever is supposed to access that system for a particular service or to use it for a particular job, they cannot be able to access that system and use it for that particular job that they intend to, right? So essentially, you're denied a service. The same way today, if eCitizen is down, you're not able to access BRS services, you're not able to access um, um, diplomatic services, you're not able to access license, pay for your license and all that stuff, right? So because eCitizen has been pulled down by probably an Iranian hacker group, right? So you're denied that service because the service has been rendered unavailable because of a cybersecurity attack. Yeah. And this is also common, particularly things like web defacement. Web defacement here we mean a particular website can just be pulled offline, right? Today you want to go and visit icta.go.ke, but you find that the website is not available, right? So it has been defaced. It sort of has been moved out of the interwebs, right? Then lastly, there's insider threats, which you discussed that, yes, within our own groupings that we have, now whether you're formal workplace or other groups, we could have members of those particular groups or organizations who might pose a threat to the entire group. This could be as simple as leaking confidential information, could be as simple as selling selling data of that organization's customers to their competitor, right? It could be as easy as kawaida fraud, where people just steal money, and this is, for example, in banks. We all have seen in the news where a certain bank, someone stole 58 million over a period of 1 year, right? And and they were not traced within that 1 year. Ilijulikana baadaye sana. So that is a form of insider threat. And this is always difficult to handle because you realize the perpetrators of those insider threats, these are legitimate employees who have legitimate duties and responsibilities, and they are given legitimate access to access certain places, certain data, certain systems. So they do this within their normal authorization levels. So again, it's a very pertinent and a serious threat if you consider it that way. Okay, so I already see we have hands, but I will address that in a few. So what I wanted to drive at here in terms of organizational security, a few things, just high level summary, and then we can break this down. So one is we have this thing called continuous monitoring and assessment. So basically here what we mean is that this is mostly for those probably in risk and compliance committees or people in IT, but it applies to everyone, where we are saying we all need some level of awareness as organizational members. And because of this awareness, we are conscious enough to see when something might potentially be a threat or potentially lead to a bad thing happening. For example, if you see a suspicious figure outside the CEOs, not even CEOs, outside the gate of the organization, if you see a suspicious person out there, you're not supposed to open, when you're getting into the organization gates, you just don't allow them in. If they tell you, oh, I want to go in here, I want to go see someone and all that, you just don't allow them to do it. We call it piggybacking, for example. just because you're entering, umefungua sasa wanasema, hata nilikuwa nimesahau fungo yangu. They're probably not members of that organization, right? So that consciousness is important. And you can think of that as part of at a very low level, where employees can monitor the environment, have environmental awareness, and things like that. But then from a technical perspective, from a practice perspective, this could look like deploying systems, deploying some technical solutions that will on a daily basis, 24/7, be able to scan the systems or the environment, IT environment you have in the organization, identify some behaviors or activities that are out of the norm, potentially because there are certain rules of engagement or certain rules that have been set in place. So some of these activities might be operating out of these rules. So ideally they become suspicious activities. So if you have monitoring, you're able to trace these activities and then take action on them, right? And things like that. So you do this continuously so that on a daily basis, an organization is able to be aware of what are some of the malicious or suspicious things that are happening and what can we do about them. Importantly, it's important. It's good to be updated on what is happening generally within the cybersecurity space. And this applies actually to all of us. You might not need to get the technical details, but just to appreciate that maybe your friend's Instagram was hacked, right? You could be curious that, oh, why was it hacked? Why did some random controversial posts were made um, uh, using your friend's Instagram, yet it was not them who made them, right? Just the fact that that can happen, I think is important for all of us. But for an organization that might go beyond that into trying to go and really investigate what are some of the threats and attacks that are out there. How can hackers attack us based on the systems that we use, based on the tools that we use, etc., etc. Organizations would typically use an approach we call defense in depth, where we mean you don't just put one layer of defense or one control and then you go home, right? So you can have like multiple levels of control. The same thing in our homes, we would first have a gate, right? We'd have the gate that is the outside gate. And in fact, you can still have a second gate, right? You can have a second and a third gate, etc. Yeah, so one gate, maybe two second gate. And then before that, as you go through the second gate, yeah, you probably get to the main door and it is a steel door, right? So there's a steel door. And then inside the steel door, there's potentially a hard wooden door, right? And this hard wooden door has like 5 locks, right? It has 5 locks top to down, right? So you see the layers of defense. There was gate 1, gate 2, probably gate 3, steel door, and then wooden door inside with 5 or 6 or 7 locks, probably with an alarm, right? Or a bell or something like that. So we have levels or layers of defense, which is important, so that if someone breaks through gate 1, there's gate 2 they have to handle. If someone breaks through gate 2, there's a whole steel door they have to handle. So the idea there is we make it so difficult for any thief to be able to get inside the house. We make it as difficult as possible, right? So that is kind of the strategy. And then lastly, and this awareness is part of it, we try to promote and emphasize just a culture of being able to think about security or think about safety or think about privacy, right? And it starts with having um, with having information sessions like this. So where we build our cognitive or mental understanding, and then we build that consciousness, which is more psychological understanding, and then we start behaving in ways that ensures our personal and organizational safety, and then it can go on and on into how some of the beliefs that we have or the norms that we have, and how we want to be able to take care of our safety as individuals, as groups we are in, as an organization. So that whole spectrum is just having that culture. And I had mentioned, we can think of security as a sixth sense, right? as a sixth sense. The same way if you're walking in town, and it's in the dark, maybe usiku kidogo, you'll always just be watching your back, watching, who is on the side, looking at corners, trying to see if there's anything that is risky or who is coming, who is approaching me, who is behind me, is there someone walking behind me? Because you have that sixth sense. You are aware that it is me walking at night in town, maybe in certain streets, yeah, or certain sections, it might be very risky. So you are risky aware. So it's the same thing that we can apply to our digital lives, right? Um, and we shall discuss that in a few. So I hope you can still see my screen. I am at the security defenses slide deck. Okay. People are saying that okay. Mm, kindly alert, slides are not moving. Okay, let me just share. These are just technical problems. These are just kawaida technical problems. So let me, oh, I know what I'll do. Sorry. Let me do this. Let me share my entire screen. Initially, I was just sharing that slide deck. I think my entire screen should make it a bit more efficient. Some of these collaboration system tools, they can have sluggishness when you're sharing only one aspect of all the tabs that all the applications that are open. So it gets quite sluggish. So I hope you can still see my screen. The slide deck is titled Security Defenses. Wengine wanasema hawaelewi, wana float. Okay. Someone's struggling to hear me. Okay. Ongeza sauti. You can always get the resource. So initially I started by mentioning that we will extend the conversation we were having yesterday, but then it's good to just have a quick recap, because even in doing so, there's certain things we can appreciate. And then we will dive into the defenses or some of the controls, which of course a bunch of them through the conversation yesterday we already sort of mentioned. So okay, so I've shared my entire screen. Okay, super. So let's look at security defenses. And this is for this is organizational, right? So as you can see here, we started the organizational security, so we're just doing an extension of that. So we'll be looking at different categories of defenses, and then under each of those categories, we will look at different examples. So as you can see here, we have this set of defenses called perimeter defenses. So perimeter here means boundary, right? The outmost boundary. So I've used the example of our own houses, homes, where you have the first gate, second gate, etc. Right? So the first gate could be built along the outside wall, the very last wall, or the very last fence, right? So that is the first level of defense, right? So the outmost wall or the outmost case is part of the perimeter defense, right? So that's the first barrier or the first control that you have. And then you can have the various other layers or the various other levels like gate 2, gate 3, etc., as you go inwards or as you go beneath. So one example is the firewalls, and firewalls are very common. We all, I suppose, should be knowing firewalls, right? Which is firewall is either like a whole hardware system, that you can buy and then install within your IT environment, rather than with which you set some rules. Firewall actually works with rules. Otherwise, you'll just have some hardware that is lying somewhere. But within that hardware, you need to set some rules as to how you want to manage and control traffic that goes in and out of an organizational IT systems. So that's the function of a firewall. It could be a hardware, or it could even just be a software. But even if it is hardware, there has to be a logical layer. By logical here, we mean an abstract layer where you actually define those rules and protocols and all that, what is authorized, what is denied, so that you are able to control network or internet traffic in and out of the organization. So typically these firewalls could be best at the perimeter level, but we now have firewalls that could be deployed even at even internally. So you can have perimeter, and then you can have some other firewalls internally within your network. You can have some firewalls around certain particular systems, right? So it depends on your IT setup. But firewalls provide a very great way to ensure control of what comes in and out in terms of your network traffic. Two, we have an entire spectrum of tools or solutions called intrusion detection and prevention. What this means is that we have some certain IT systems that you can set up, and they are used for detecting if there is any malicious activity or malicious traffic, or malicious usage of IT systems. Yeah, so their work is to detect. So ideally, what they have is you can in a number of ways. You can set up some metric or some threshold or some rules that defines what is normal within what should be normal within your organization, and then anything that is abnormal is detected as something that needs to be investigated, right? So you can have some rules of detection. And then also right now we have systems that are a bit more dynamic, in the sense that they can even capture behavioral activities. We are humans, so we operate in very interesting ways. So some things that cannot necessarily be coded in rules, but they can be very behavioral, can just go with our own personalities, can go with our own norms and things like that. So you have systems that can detect some of these behavioral components in the individual. It detects those ones if they're off, and then you can go ahead and set up, solutions to be able to prevent or address those issues. Okay. Lastly, when you're talking about the IT networks within our environment or within our organizations, there are many different ways you could ensure security of them. Of course, perimeter defenses is one of them, but how you design your network. When you're designing your network, you can ensure that you design it in a way that is secure before you even start thinking about getting some tools or some solutions and things like that, because most of us just think about systems and solutions. But fundamentally, you can think about, okay, fine, when I'm creating my those who have cyber cafes, for example, yeah, you will have your computers, the cyber cafe. You have to connect these computers to some internet dispensing source, like a router or whatever you're using, a Wi-Fi or whatever. But basically, let's say you're using even the cabled networking. So you connect computers to computers, and then you'll be able to use like a cyber cafe management system to be able to control access to these computers and things like that. So how you're designing the setup of your cyber cafe, how you're connecting the computers to the printers, or the computers to some other devices you have, you can do them in a way that is a bit more secure in terms of the design. Um, and then also just another disclaimer, some things might come on quite technical, but I just want you to stick with me and appreciate. If you can only learn one or two things, that is good enough for you, trust me. So just appreciate, and then could make sense later. Okay. So the next category here is what we call endpoint protection. So the word endpoint refers to all those systems that are very democratized within the organization. So these are systems that are used typically by end users. So end users could be you and me and all of us individually here, right? It includes the mobile phones that the organizations give you for your work purpose, right? Those devices like iPads or tablets that the organization gives you to go out and use in the field, right? Includes the laptops that you're given, etc., right? Um, it includes some systems that the organization can deploy in the field, maybe to collect data out, independently and things like that. So we have all these sort of systems that are used at the very end in terms of a business process, and they feed data, or they feed input back into the organization. So there are multiple ways you do want to think about protecting or ensuring protection of these systems and the data that they hold, including using anti-malware software. Remember, we talked about malware as being a category of all sorts of malicious softwares, including worms, viruses, ransomware, etc. So we have anti-malware softwares, and it can be as simple as your antivirus. It can be as simple as ransomware does not necessarily have ransomwares don't really have like an anti-software. It can be your antivirus. It can be, and antiviruses cover a range of. Right now, the new generation antiviruses have great capability. They deal with worms. They deal with kawaida viruses that are signature based and behavioral based and things like that. But the good ones are those ones that are paid for. If you can have some paid antiviruses or detections on softwares, the better for you. Alternatively, all Windows computers, they also have very good built-in software, which is called the Windows Defender. Yeah, so Windows Defender is pretty good. As I think with the recent version is pretty good in terms of just normal, ordinary protection in terms of malwares and all that. So that is also good, but you can use third-party solutions. You can just buy a solution or get another, even open source solutions that is well configured. It can be used for anti-malware protection. The other thing, you can encrypt information in your device, right? Especially, I know for organizations that are set up well, each of those devices can be managed there because the devices are given by the company. So the company manages those devices. So there's something we call mobile device management, right? So this is what basically this means is that those mobile devices or systems that your organization has given you, they have settings that have been defined by the company, but then the company is also able to remotely monitor and manage and change controls on those devices, right? Right, including encryption, including decryption, right? But if it is your own personal device, you might think about encrypting, right? If that works for you, you might think about having different layers of security, but encryption is one of them where you can have a one folder and maybe encrypt that folder because it has a lot of sensitive information that you want to keep, so that in case even your phone gets lost, um, someone who might have access, if they can, might not be able to decrypt that particular folder, right? Things like that. Um, we have this thing called patches, and I think I did mention yesterday, where one of the things you'd want to do continually, individually and as an organization, is to always update your softwares, update your applications that you have, your TikTok, your Telegram, your Microsoft Office, your WPS, etc. So update these programs on a regular basis. Most of them actually do these updates automatically. So you can think of a patch, in this case, patch management, just as a way to, in a very structured manner, be able to address some weaknesses in the existing applications that are in our devices by creating certain specific updates for certain specific security issues. Yeah. While you might have the kawaida updates, those updates could come in the form of really addressing specific issue, and especially when a security weakness has a major what we call a major could have a major impact, or it's a major issue. Yeah. So patches and updates are critical, and this is something each of us individually should always watch out to be able to do on our first, even our own devices. I mean, your phone, you can update the firmware. Firmware here, I mean, is the original underlying software that provides the platform, operating system, really. That provides the platform for the installation and use of your other applications, right? Starting from there, and then you also update all the other applications that you have installed, things like that. So that is for endpoints, devices, your kawaida, devices that you use on a daily basis. And then we have this group that is called identity and access. This is something we use every day. That's the beauty about all of this concept, is that one, I did mention this yesterday, that you could think about, you should always try to use two-factor authentication. Here it's called multi-factor authentication. But then multi-factor just essentially means, as much as we typically use our passwords and our username to create accounts and do logins, we need to have another extra step or another extra layer of security. Remember, we talked about security in depth, where you have get one, get two, get three, and probably um, a steel door and then a wooden door and multiple locks. Same idea here, that you have your username and your password, which is okay, but it could have another step or another security control where we say, we are sending you OTP, which is very common. But even beyond OTP, maybe you can decide to use um, something else. It could be, and I know let me use an example. We all have seen security questions where you're asked, oh, what is the middle name of your mom? Is it the name of your favorite pet? So you choose which question you want to use, and they provide an answer that will be used to validate that it is at some point it will be used to validate that is actually you, because you're the only one who should be knowing, probably should be knowing, but that is not entirely true. Your friend could be knowing the name of your favorite pet, right? Your favorite name for a pet. Your friend could be knowing which school you went to. So essentially, it's something like security questions it's not a very good mechanism. It's not a secure mechanism, though it's something that we've always used. But there are other things like passkeys that you should consider. There are other things like tokens. Yesterday I mentioned that in some instances you would have like a USB that you can use before you actually log in. So you take that USB, plug it into your laptop, and then once you plug in, you put your username and password, and then from there, that system or that account can be able to, and this is mostly used in systems that are very restricted, will be able to recognize the token in the USB, and then that's when you can then, potentially do an OTP, and then once you input the OTP, that's when you can sign in. So it becomes a bit more, it's multiple steps. It becomes a bit more difficult. So if someone doesn't have the USB stick with the token, that means they can't log in because they lack something that you should be having. If someone doesn't get the OTP, then they lack something that can be sent or given to them, and things like that. So I know yesterday someone asked, should we be using pass keys or passwords? The very best, I'd always encourage you to use passkeys. I mean, I know it takes a bit more work to set it up compared to OTPs. But if you can do it, please do it. A lot of the common platforms or apps we use have introduced passkeys. Yeah. Someone is asking that, what about the passwords provided by Google? Please do not use passwords provided by Google. I know they will suggest for you, use this password, it is strong enough. But when you do, that password is actually stored in the Google browser. Yeah, and yesterday we said we do not want to keep our credentials, password, usernames, Google browser, or any browser for that matter, including even Mozilla, which of course we know is built for security with, is built in with a lot of security features, but preferably use a password manager, right? Preferably use a password manager. Okay. Now, another thing, there's this thing called role-based access control. So here, what we mean, and this happens very commonly. This is a very common thing. I just want us to look at it in a more security perspective if we have not yet probably come across it. So this basically means the only access you get to data, to systems, or whatever places is only based on your job title and responsibilities, right? If I'm a CEO, I'll probably access a lot of organization data and systems if I have that access. If I am a cashier, I probably only access the cashier system, right? Cashier management system. I don't need to access the server. I don't need to access the HR system, right? I only access things and systems that are aligned to the job that I do on a daily basis. So that is, so we give access based purely on the role that someone plays in the organization. This is very common. Strong password policies, again, that is very, very common. So yesterday we talked about a few things, including just using those a bit more complex passwords. And beyond using passwords, preferably use passphrases. Passphrases here we mean write whole sentences. Don't just use words or one word or one randomized, gibberish, right? Use words. You use a whole statement, right? It could be maybe unataka kuweka password yako in Kiswahili, unasema mimi napenda kwenda pwani kukula biriani, right? It's a whole statement. And maybe make it a bit more complex. Use numbers, use letters, use spaces, etc., etc., right? So those are passphrases, would be preferred. And then, of course, on top of that, use password manager. Store those passwords in password manager because you might not be able to remember all those passwords, and you don't want to write them on sticky notes. You don't want to write them on a certain document somewhere, and then you keep in your laptop. If someone gets access to that document, they'll have all your passwords for the various accounts, right? So password manager can help because you only have to remember one password that gives you access to all of the other passwords, all of your accounts. Okay. So we have this, as I mentioned earlier, data protection. Let me take sipati kidogo. I mentioned data protection where we look at how do you protect data using security measures, but then also how do you protect data in a way that respects the rights of people whose data is about, right? So this includes your customers, your stakeholders in terms of board members, employees, your vendors, your suppliers, anyone within your supply chain, with which you have data of, right? So one, as I've already talked about encryption, maybe just a bit more detail. You can do encryption for data that is stored in one particular place. This could be data that is in your phone, data that it is in a server somewhere, data that is in a computer somewhere, right? You can do encryption for that data that is at rest. Here means it is stored and it is static. Iko hapo haisongi. And then we have in transit where you can now do you can now do encryption for data that is on the move, right? Data that is probably moving from laptop A to laptop B or system A to system B, right? So you encrypt it to avoid a few things we mentioned yesterday. One, to avoid things like what's the word? If it's dropping. While it's true, even encrypted data that is on the move can still be accessed. But remember, even if someone accesses it, it is encrypted. That means it is in gibberish. Someone will not be able to understand it, right? So those are two things. While a hacker can be able to get into a transfer process, because the data is encrypted, they will not be able to use the data meaningfully unless they get a code to decrypt that information, right? So encryption ensures that your information stays confidential. Um, you know, it also helps with data privacy, and this is something we shall discuss. We shall discuss how tomorrow. So you have to have your backups, again, very kawaida stuff. And I'll be interested to hear maybe sentiments or questions around these common things. So do you have your backups the same way you back up your WhatsApp messages and images on Google Drive, right? It's the same thing. And this is typically can set up the backup in such a way that it happens automatically. Every 2 a.m. in the night, if you're connected to Wi-Fi, the WhatsApp just backs all the data up in your Google Drive so that whenever you lose your phone and you have to reset your WhatsApp, then you can easily just download your backup and continue with your WhatsApp usage, um, which in that sense is called recovery. Downloading that WhatsApp messages and the images and everything. That is a recovery process. So you're recovering from your backup. And there are other strategies for recovery, which I think is beyond the scope of this session. And then also, lastly, sometimes you'd want to do away with information that you do not need, right? Or maybe you do away information because you are legally required to do so, especially when you are compelled, let's say, by court or by a legal determination. But whatever the case, the idea is if you're going to dispose information, you need to do it in a very secure manner, right? You'll not just download information about your customers. You delete them from your. I mean, you just don't download and then do what? I put them in a this is called a flash, right? And download them, keep them in the flash, and then delete them from your laptop, and then you say that you have disposed it. No, you cannot. You just transfer the storage, right? So essentially, you probably have to also destroy that flash disk, right? But in the first case, don't move it. If it is deleting, do a delete and then probably ensure it's a permanent delete. Because remember, forensically, you can still depending on the context, you can still recover information, in your laptop, in your hard drive, whatever digital storage there's a possibility that forensically data can still be recovered, right? So in some cases, we have even data in physical format. This is something I probably shall discuss tomorrow as well. Those documents that you in your archives room somewhere zimewekwa kwa shelves na files, how do you dispose all that data? You just don't wake up one day and start tearing those papers into tiny tiny pieces, and then unazitupa kwa dustbin ama I mean, you can do that and choma it, but even so, I think we had seen this in movies where detectives go and then they take some pieces from zenye zimechomwa ndani ya trash, mtu aliweka makaratasi mapicha ndani ya drum hii ya steel akawasha kibiriti akachomea hapo, and then detective anakuja anatoa those small pieces anaziweka chini, anajaribu kuziunganisha, try to fit in the puzzle, and probably that can provide some insights. Remember, this is a detective, but if it is a bad individual, then they might just figure out maybe what that document, even if it is at a high level, what that document was about, right? So, and anyway, the idea is have a secure process, and we shall talk a bit about disposal tomorrow as well. Now, security defense. Sorry, slide haijasonga. Good. And then one also fun. I think this should be the last aspect here. So employee awareness and training. This is one of the things this is exactly what you're doing now, right? So these sessions are typically what most organizations do, and probably some of you have gone through this awareness training session. So where we're talking about participate in those as an individual, try and participate in those regular security and privacy trainings, right? If there are some simulation exercises where but this you might never know. Simulation is always done by probably guys in IT or risk or whoever is in security teams. So they will create a phishing email, send to you that phishing email on that is claimed tumetoka to your immediate boss to do something, and then you might end up doing it or clicking a link or opening an attachment in that email, etc., etc. But remember, this was just a test email. They were just trying to fish you to see if you will actually respond to the instruction in that email. So if you do, the IT team will know that you are the one who actually clicked that link or opened that attachment or took some action that was in line with those instructions in the email, right? They might not tell you, but they might, because of that, they will know maybe it is Eugene in the operations department. So they will find a way to take you into a security training. They might not come and criticize you directly, but they will probably create a training and that to ensure that you learn, because they might know your weakness. Maybe kuna weakness ya hii ya click links ama bila kuuliza and things like that. So you might end up being pulled in such sessions, which is great. Then also importantly, it is important for each of us to know, in case there are suspicious issues that we see, how do we report these issues to the relevant persons, departments, or units? It's very important, because sometimes, a lot of times, you see people have seen something, but they don't know what to do. They might think it's suspicious or malicious, but they don't know what to do, right? So a good organization would definitely have a process or a procedure rather, where you can escalate that issue. You can report it, and then maybe an action can be taken, right? And mostly these issues are reported to IT or security teams if an organization has security teams. But the idea there is, say something, try and say something, right? Say something. The same thing we have, I think, with reporting here is the same. Think of it, for example, let me use the whistleblowing example, right? While whistleblowing is anonymous, is the same thing that you've seen some um, shitty things. Give my French. You've seen some shitty things happening, and you want to anonymously report to some, report about it. So you do it anonymously, right? But here, of course, you can just report, this and that has happened, or I've received these emails from over the last 1 week or yesterday, and I don't know what to do about it. Is it legitimate? Should I go ahead and follow the instructions, etc.? Okay. I think we can maybe let me see. So that is a summary of the organizational aspects to it. So what I'll do is, let me just take the let me look at a few questions, but in the meantime, allow me to let me switch off my video. I need to grab a snack kidogo. One. So I see Ezekiel says, is it safe to save? That is it safe to log in with Google account unprompted? I mean, whether it's Google, whether it's Twitter, whether it's LinkedIn, or a lot of the platforms that provide, there's something we call um, identity provision, or let's say in this case, identity provider. So for example, Google is an identity provider, right? So an identity provider is basically a platform that has a database of identity or credentials for an account, right? Like your Google account, right? Has your names, your email, and maybe other information, right? So when you go to eCitizen, then eCitizen allows you to log in with your email, with your Google account. Basically, Google is the identity provider. So Google provides the identity to eCitizen for verification that that your identity as a person, that you are who you are, right? Okay. So it happened when you're signing up. So two things: when you're signing up for, let's say, Citizen, and you want to sign up with your Google, eCitizen will make a request to Google. So eCitizen becomes the identity requester. Yeah. So you go into Citizen, during sign up, you click sign up with Google. eCitizen as identity requester sends a signal or a request to Google that says, hey, there's, of course, your Google account will probably be open in your laptop. They'll tell Google, hey, there's this person who wants to sign up here. And then you get that, normally you get that prompt that that asks you to accept Google to share your information with eCitizen, right? So we have a requester and a provider. So Google provides those details. If you accept terms and condition, privacy policy, etc., etc., Google will then share your email and your name with eCitizen, and then you'll be able to, from there you can, step two, now keep on just logging in or signing in with your Google account, right? So during sign-in, what happens is, because your account, your name and your email is already with eCitizen, when you're sending in with a Google account, eCitizen will now just need to verify, right? It will push a request to Google. Hey, identity provider, is this, we have this email, we have this person. Could you still verify that their details are correct? And then Google will verify that, and then you'll be able to log in with your the email. Of course, there are certain standards and protocol that manage that does communication, but one common one is called OAuth or auth, zero auth rather. Yeah, no, it's OAuth, right? And there are a bunch of others anyway, but yeah, that, I hope you get the idea there. So yeah, it is okay to use your Google or your Twitter and all that. But remember, they always share that information, whether it is the email or the name, because if you go to your eCitizen account, you'll see your email there. So you'll see your name there that has been shared by the identity provider. Can you talk about using public Wi-Fi and how to bypass any possible dangers? Public Wi-Fi. Do not use public Wi-Fi. Period. Use your mobile data. I know you'd want to think about VPN, but remember, VPNs are not 100% proof, right? Just do not use private Wi-Fi. Use your own bundles, or you can do the tethering and all that. Explain how we can image an entire server. Wow, that is, sorry, Hosea, that is out of the scope of this session. But yeah, you can go to Google and learn how to do imaging. It's not a very big I mean, what am I saying? Imaging is not a very big task. You can image a hard drive, you can image whatever databases, and probably come up with the ISO images or whatever images for forensic analysis and all that. And there are tools for that, right? There are digital tools for that. Incognito is using incognito mode on Google as safety measure. It is not. Incognito mode is a fallacy in a sense. What it does is, incognito mode just ensures that your browser activity is not recorded in the browser history, but it does not make your web activities anonymous, right? It only does not store the history of that. Typically does not hold the history of that web activity, probably the site you visited and things like that. There's no privacy on the internet. Well, people say privacy is dead, but it's not entirely. But yeah, I mean, you can argue that you can only get as much privacy. There's no 100% privacy. Same to any other thing. There are conditions, there are caveats, there are constraints and all that. Please, can you talk about the dark web? Well, as I said yesterday, if you want to figure out the dark web, just do your research. Do Google research. ChatGPT is there, and other, probably perplexity.ai. They can give you some ideas of how to figure out to navigate the dark web. But as I mentioned, you will need a setup. you'll need to set some things up. You'll need to access anonymity tools like the common one, which is Tor, right? Tor is a good tool for you to be able to set yourself up in terms of starting to access the dark web. So please find research and learn about that. How can you protect employees' right to privacy? I think that's something we can discuss tomorrow. So I hope the host will save the chat so that okay, let me just save this chat anyway. Please, Austin, ask that question tomorrow. We can address it then. So public Wi-Fi. I mean, here's the thing. One, let me use the government case or the Wi-Fi that the government has been claiming. At least I have not seen or used. Has been claiming to deploy in markets and small semi-urban and rural centers. One, someone is paying for that Wi-Fi, even if it is government money or taxpayers' money. Someone is paying for that Wi-Fi. Yeah. And normally it is set up to be accessed by anyone, right? Especially the ones that are like very, very open. Yeah. Even those that you find in, when you go to certain organizations and they just tell you, angalia pale kwa ukuta, there is the guest Wi-Fi and then this is the password and things like that. They're designed to be accessed by anyone. Anyone here could include a hacker or someone who has a bad intention, has the skills to be able to connect to that Wi-Fi, be able to run some scripts, be able to use some tools to be able to access other computers, find other computers that are connected to that Wi-Fi, and try and investigate what are the weaknesses in the other computers that they can then use to access that computers, and this computer could be yours, right? So essentially they can access your data, they can trace your traffic, understand which sites you're visiting, maybe even capture credentials, right? Yeah, they can capture credentials, your password, your username, imagine your bank card, your debit card number. Just imagine, right? Okay. So tell me, if someone who has these skills and understanding wants to do this, actually is in the same Wi-Fi as you, would you be comfortable to be able to access that Wi-Fi? And remember, if it is, for example, the government case I was saying, do not assume that because it is in some orchard somewhere that someone cannot do that. There are certain, and this I'll say for sure, some young guys out there who knows a few things or can play around with some digital tools and be able to access information, right? Yeah. There are some Wi-Fis that connect automatically. Well, you just need to go to your Wi-Fis and probably delete the record, delete that previous Wi-Fi connections you've had. You can also deactivate the auto connect feature, which is normal settings that are in your Wi-Fi. You go to your network what is it called? Your network settings, whether it's your laptop or your mobile phone, you can be able to delete the Wi-Fis or the history, the Wi-Fis you've connected to, and then also turn off the auto connect feature. While I do feel the public Wi-Fi that government is providing us is for data mapping, tell you what, that could be a possibility. All right, cool. Let me look at the time. We should be. Let me finish these personal aspects, and then we'll come back to a lot of these questions. Hopefully, get out of here by latest 7:20, 30 by extension. So let's look at individual security here. So this thing we call OPSEC. So OPSEC is generally just an idea of, well, it's operational security, right? But you're looking at this now from a personal level. So one, device security best practices. So I think I've already mentioned a few things. So I've talked about passwords, I've talked about keeping systems updated, I've talked about encryption, I've talked about biometric authentication. While we have touched identity and access management, which has a couple of components. One of them is authentication, which is the kawaida thing we normally do when you're logging in. So basically, you're not logging in. It's a beginning, it's a start of an authentication process where you provide your name, your email, or your passwords, right? And then and then the system is able to verify if there's a legitimate record of your email and your password in their database. And if it is, then you're given access. If it is not, then you're blocked. Then you're told your password is correct, your email is correct, right? But there are two things with email and password. One, um, you could input a correct email with a wrong password. Yeah, the system will tell you. Some systems will tell you either of them is correct. Some systems will tell you your password is correct because they've done two things. They've done something. One, they have verified if the email is actually legitimate and they have determined is legitimate. Then they have come to the password that matches that legitimate email and found that it is wrong, right? So those are kind of two steps there. Um, yeah. So here we're talking about biometric. So your kawaida fingerprints that we normally, I think fingerprints is the most common biometric form that we use when you go for your police clearance certificate to DCI. Nakwambianga kuja finya hapa your fingerprints, on those sheets of papers. Yeah. Right now, I know, of course, there's the digital biometric authentication devices as well. Ukienda kwa bank, not bank, sorry, where am I thinking? There's some places ukienda wanakwambia use the digital biometric systems and it is stored somewhere in a database. So what that print yenye umeambiwa scan your fingerprint, that becomes a template, right? So that template will then be used for referencing. The next time you visit and ukiweka, that is just for referencing. The same thing we have in organizations. Hapo kwa mlango, when you're accessing the door, going to the office, you can either use your maybe smart card or use a password or use the fingerprint. So ukiweka your fingerprint, there's a template that is already stored, that will then be referenced to verify that your fingerprint biometric is actually legitimate. But you can use this. You can use biometrics on your phone, right? Lots of phones have the biometric feature, which a lot of us love using, your laptops, whatever. Because anyway, biometric has the high level of uniqueness, right? Unlike a password or email and so on. So it's very, very unique. You remember the WorldCoin situation, that saga that we had the other year, right? One of the key issues around that was why the iris scan that was being done. Remember, iris scan is still a biometric data. Yeah, your iris scan is a biometric piece of data. And while you might argue, why iris, why not fingerprints that we are used to? Fingerprints, most of us are comfortable using it. We've used it for too long. But then you have someone who's now telling you, we want to scan your eye, and get a copy of your iris and then store it somewhere, and then we'll use it for referencing as a template. Yeah. So the issues were raised because the iris is a very highly unique, highly intrusive piece of biometric data. Imagine your eye, someone who can run your eye. It's not like a fingerprint. You have even like 5 anyway. But iris is only that one iris that you have. So it's very highly ranked piece of biometric information, and that was why there was a bit of a fuss about iris scan collections and things like that. And remember, biometrics is not just something that you can wake up tomorrow and change. Your passwords you can wake up tomorrow and change. You can change every day if you want, but you can't change your fingerprints. You're not going to change your iris scan. So if someone collects it, they've collected it and they've kept it like forever, right? Think about that. And then a bit about internet and Wi-Fi. Again, this is but some of the questions that have been sentiments that have been in the chat. So like I've said, avoid public Wi-Fi. Yes, you can rely on a VPN, but preferably just avoid it. Potentially use your own private internet provision, your MiFi's, your portable these portable gadgets like the one Safaricom and Airtel has. Um, use satellite internet if you have Starlink and things like that. Let VPN be just an alternative in my opinion, but VPN is something you typically will just use every other time and all that. Secure browsing. I did mention yesterday that whenever you're visiting any site in your browser, always look out for a green locked padlock on the left side of that area on top of your browser where the website link is. So if you're going to ecitizen.go.ke, hapo penye una type o penye ecitizen.go.ke imetaipiwa hapo juu, on the left side there has to be a green locked button, and on the side of besides that padlocks, there has to be something like HTTPS. So basically this stands for HTTP. S is for security, secure rather. So HTTP is Hypertext Transfer Protocol, which is just an internet way of saying, yeah, for the connection that you're having with it to this website, there's some level of security that has been provided for this connection. So always make sure, always ensure that green padlock and this is there. If it is not there, likely the padlock will be unlocked and it will be red, and you would have some sort of can even tell you if you click there, it can tell you this connection is unsecure. Yeah. And in that case, you'll probably just be doing HTTP without the S. Yeah. So it is good to understand this. Of course, there are other things you'd want to do in terms of securing your browsing session, which I think a bit more out of scope of this session today. Be cautious when clicking on links. Again, talked about this. I think a lot of you guys should already know this. You just don't go on clicking links. And I would like to mention social media. All of us are, when you go to Twitter, you see something interesting, you just click. It's very common, even among, I mean, all of us are victims of this. We are guilty of this. It's easy on social media to just click on links, especially links that, well, one, out of curiosity, and then two, some links might look legitimate, but when you click, it just takes you to some funny sites, right? So those clicks can be used for the phishing that I mentioned earlier, where you click it takes you somewhere, and then probably the website that is behind that link might download a malicious software um, into your laptop, and then that software can maybe even run in the background in your laptop without you knowing, and then it starts collecting your keystrokes. So keystrokes here is, all the typing that you do, it actually collects all that typing. So if you typed your password, it will record that typing that you do, and then it will be able to store your password somewhere, and then maybe remotely send out that password to a certain server somewhere where a hacker can sit and just collect it, easily, and all that stuff. So yeah, as much as possible, try and avoid clicking those links. Talking of social media, by extension, yeah, do not share personal information out there. I know all of us love photos, love our Instagram accounts and all that, and we like sharing our lives there. But think about all the possible risks, all the possible bad things that could happen. I'm not saying you don't use it. No, I mean, that's not the argument here. But the idea is, the more you limit your information about yourself, the more you reduce your digital footprint, the more less someone can be able to build or assemble a profile about you just very easily from your social media, right? The idea here is not to remove everything from the internet. The idea is to reduce and make it a bit more difficult for someone to figure us out just based on, the information we keep sharing and all that. Privacy settings, including security settings. So right now, I know in many, especially even my mobile devices, some of these platforms are really up to their game. So you have a whole set of security and privacy settings. So a few things. One, if you go to your settings now, I'm sure there's a whole section for security and maybe a different section. Some have a different section for privacy, right? So go into those settings, turn off all the permissions to applications, permissions that's applications that you don't really think these applications need. Yesterday, I gave an example of a very simple, straightforward example of a calculator needing access to your contacts, right? Why would a calculator in your phone need access to your contacts for what? WhatsApp might make sense for it to access contacts because you want to easily, conveniently communicate with your contacts, but a calculator, really? So you go in there, you turn off that permission, the access to contacts permission that is given to the calculator. So you do that for all your apps. So you kind of do some sort of an audit of the permissions you have given to applications in your phone, right? And you can do this on a regular basis, once or twice a year or something like that. But anyway, when you're installing an application, try and also just look at what permissions that application is asking you to give. I know you're installing it because you want to use it, so you might have the tendency of just say accept, 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 and move on. But just pause kidogo and then take 1 minute and think, okay, fine. Does it make sense? Is it very necessary? Can I still use the app without having to use it? Right? I know how apps limit that, you need to give them certain access for them to do it. Because remember, they typically design those applications that way. So because they want to collect information from your phone, they want access to other data from other applications from your phone and things like that. So it's a very deceptive situation. But think for a minute and just try and audit, assess what makes sense, and then be cautious of friends' requests from unknown individuals. Remember, we have a lot of catfishing. So catfishing here, we mean you'll get friend requests on LinkedIn, even. Yeah, we say LinkedIn is professional, but it happens a lot. You get someone sent you a request. They have put a nice photo that I am a lady of a lady, and they sent you a request and they want you to connect, on Facebook and all that and start to vibe and stuff like that. Kumbe, it's not actually a lady, it's some man somewhere in Vietnam who is texting you. And if you ever ask them to get into a video call, they will always dodge a video call because they don't want to speak. They don't want you to see them and all that. Anyway, the whole point is you can get catfished, lied to, deception and all that. Plus, if you didn't expect it, if it is not a valuable connection, um, you don't really need it, so weigh the value, weigh um the reward. What is the reward for you? Vis-a-vis, could you live without it? I mean, you could live without many connections. You just don't connect. I mean, if you can't. So um okay, let's see how much time we have. Good. I think we are done probably. So a bit of, I think I've already talked about passwords. I've said use MFAs, do not use passwords, use password managers. Phishing at the same time. Phishing, we discussed this yesterday, the various ways of phishing, and I've also just spoken about social media phishing using those links, especially for trending issues, trending topics. People will just post when you go, you search a trend on Twitter and then you just scroll through. There could be so many links, and there's a whole temptation to be able to click on links, so be careful on that. Verifying senders before responding, and this is good for emails. I talked about yesterday where as one thing you'd want to look at for emails that you receive and you're suspicious about is look at the headers. So the headers here is pale juu penye unaandika Solomon Mkubwa, and then hapo chini the name of the sender, and then hapo chini umeandika from, to, reply to, etc. Click that drop down and then look at those addresses. Kama ni sender imetoka kwa solomon@gmail.com, is it the legitimate email control of a person that you know? And even if you don't know, can you be able to verify, especially for the organizational emails, can you be able to verify that this is at the very least, is this domain even legitimate? And sometimes they can be legitimate, but did you even expect that email? Was it even something that um, uh, is interesting? Content might be interesting to you, but do not be deceived. Is it something that you need? I mean, if you're not expecting it, bottom line, if you're not expecting it, I mean, you don't need to bother responding. You don't need to bother taking action on it and all that. But verify the header section so that you really know if there's a security certificate associated, if the sender is actually legitimate and things like that. And then suspicious attachments, the same thing. If you didn't expect an email, if it kama hayakuhusu, avoid that email, essentially delete it even altogether. Yeah, delete that email altogether so that you're not even tempted much later to come and try to check. Nyewe kuna email nilipata, hebu acha niangalie vizuri. You might be tempted to click those attachments or links. So delete it altogether permanently. And in doing that, you're reducing the temptation, you're reducing the risk factor. So lastly, we do have this section on emerging technology. I know our time is a bit gone, but I'll be eager to maybe get more questions on this section rather than speaking on it extensively. So emerging technology. One, I just wanted us to talk cloud. Cloud has been there for as long as it has been, decade plus, at least in our ecosystem. Been talking about cloud and all that, and it's a mature, quite mature area. But just to reiterate, I mean, cloud is here to stay. So when you talk about cloud, or rather cloud computing, you're basically just saying there are certain robust, well, let me not use the word robust. Let me bring it home. It basically says there's a computer system somewhere that has some certain applications that provide certain services that is accessible either freely or on a paid basis to other people, right? Who can connect to that particular computer system, computer X, and be able to access those services or use those services to build other services, including applications, softwares, etc., that they can then use to deliver to their marketplaces. Yeah. So basically, a cloud, the setup of a cloud is a computer somewhere or someone's computer somewhere that is offering a platform for computing and processing of information. So recently we've had, for example, in Kenya here, we've had a cloud strategy document that has been released through the ministry for the Kenyan government, right? So there's a cloud strategy document that was released for comments. There's a request for comments for that document, which is of course a good move. And then I also know the ICTA, who is ICTA, which is the organizer of this forum. Also over the, in probably 2015, I think also 2019 or 2020 thereabout, they also published some 2 documents that speaks to the cloud and the cloud vision, cloud plans for the Kenyan ecosystem. So those could be useful documents for those who are interested. But generally, cloud is here to stay. The cloud computing is an interesting area, and I hope maybe some of us can exploit. We all use it every day. What we're using right now is actually cloud. I mean, this is Zoom, right? Zoom is software as a service. So there are different models of cloud. So you can find software as a service, which is normally called SaaS, where you have a platform like Zoom that just provides for you a service. In this case, they're providing for us a streaming service. So we can actually do the video conferencing. Yeah. You could have platforms like Microsoft Office 365 that provides you a suite of tools as a service, right? It's all run through a cloud model. You could have some platforms like Amazon Web Services, which provides for you infrastructure that you can provision, you can set up, and then build your applications, build your softwares, and deliver those through the Amazon Service web service as a platform using the infrastructure and things like that. It could be as easy as just hiring some space in a data center like the African data center there. You set up your system and then access it remotely, right? Anyway, those are different models. So it could be infrastructure as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, etc. So two, of course, we have, let me speak of blockchain before we come to AI. So blockchain, of course, is another one that is still very, very relevant because there are many different useful use cases for blockchain. As much as everyone is all about AI right now, blockchain is still very valid. And I think beyond the hype of AI, it's still very interesting to really look at blockchain and how it can be used to solve usual challenges in different sectors, and all of that, built of course on the idea of um, a reliability of data that is stored on the blockchain, based on the stability of um, I mean, sorry, the longevity, how long you can actually store data, because remember, blockchain is immutable. Immutable here, we mean you cannot easily, it's very difficult to delete data on blockchain vis-a-vis on your computer or on a server somewhere, right? So there are all these various fundamental benefits. Of course, there are also constraints and challenges, but the idea is that blockchain provides you the capability to be able to do things like scale, um, gives you permanency of data and things like that. But I'd like to hear your sentiments on that as well. And then lastly, AI, which is of course the hot topic now. Yeah. So anyway, there's artificial and then there's intelligence, right? Artificial intelligence. So there are very many, there are multiple different, should I call them fashions of this artificial intelligence, yeah? But AI broadly, what you're just basically meaning here is we have some systems that have been built to have certain level of intelligence. Of course, it's artificially, have certain level of intelligence that can mimic the human intelligence. Yeah. For example, ChatGPT can talk back to you. ChatGPT can process your natural language, the comments or the prompts that you give it. It can process it and give you a human-like response, things like that. We have AI systems that analyze videos, analyze images, analyze maps, etc., etc. So all of these things. So it basically, in more like human intelligence, be able to perform some of these processing activities and give you outputs based on certain inputs. Remember, AI is artificial, so it has to get something in. Yeah, garbage in, garbage in, garbage out. Remember that. So it has to consume certain data. It has to consume certain information, use that information for inference. It gets trained rather from that information, and then it uses inferencing process where it also makes references to that data. It crunches that data. It analyzes. It can reason using that information, and then based on the instructions you give it, it can then provide you an output. Yeah. So basically, that's that at a high level. And one of the interesting things right now that is on the trend, on the grapevine, is the DeepSeek models that have been released by the Chinese just this week. That is, it's claimed to be as powerful as the Chat GPT, or even more powerful than the Chat GPT. I see also Alibaba has just released something yesterday or today, that they also claim is more powerful than now the DeepSeek and the Chat GPT, and is probably like most advanced right now. Again, all these are claims, but people are analyzing, and it's a developing story. But of course, AI is useful, but again, it's a very, I wouldn't say it's not new. AI is not new. but it's something that is catching on, and it's going to be interesting to see the various ways it's applied and the use cases and all that. So that's it for me for now. So let me look at a bunch of questions before we close this today. Let me start with the Q&A. So yesterday I was able to inquire how one could reclaim one's own account after being hacked. So straight off of my head, most of these platforms that we use have some sort of a trust and safety section where you can make some reports, you can complain about something, you can contact them if something has been done. But again, here we are talking about, let's say if your account has been owned. Owned here, we mean you probably have lost control of your account, yeah? Yeah, it's always there's a whole bureaucracy there, man. That I wouldn't lie. I mean, there's a whole bureaucracy there, because then it will mean you talk to, for example, Twitter. You reach out to Twitter and say, "Hey, Twitter, I feel my account has been hacked," and then you give them details of your account. This is the handle. This is the email. Da 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 da. I have never gone through that process myself, right? But I'll just give you what some of the instructions that are out there. You tell them this is my account, da da da, and then they might tell you we're investigating this, and things like that. Of course, they'll do their own due diligence, verify through their trust and safety teams, or investigation teams, and then can have that conversation further. So it's not. I mean, it's not an easy thing, from the experiences I have seen. But again, might be worth trying. What I know is that a bunch of guys have just opted to create new accounts, you know. Um, yeah, but I know there's a possibility of that old account just being shut down, if it is validated is actually yours, because that provenance is important, that is actually yours, then probably shut down, or uh, might be an interesting option. Hey, hope this finds you well. Da da da. Okay. Mm, okay, I think there's a YouTube account that this is being streamed to, so I think you can get the link. What about saved password in the system? What do you mean by system? Is it browser or something else? I'm not sure. We do have web-based password managers, and in fact, I know we have one that can sort of work as an extension of the browser. Um, uh, what is the name? What is the name? Um, the, the, you can seek out like open source password managers. Yeah. I'm trying to get the name of one that I've used. Uh, anyway, if it comes to my head, I will share. But you can get an open source web browser that you can install on put it like how do you call it, like an extension on your browser. But then of course you can also get the web browsers. Actually, most of the password managers end up being embedded in your browser, yeah. Which means so that when you want to log in, it auto-populates, it auto-provides the credentials. But then you can choose either to use the open source one, preferably use the paid one if you can't pay, and things like that. Okay. Uh, Is it possible to get someone browsing behavior or history? Of course, it is possible. I mentioned yesterday that all the applications you use on your computers, all those are probably some files and folders, whether it's in binary format, in um 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 uh English, kawaida, usual English formats and all that. But at the end of the day, they are traces that are stored in your, that C drive, the one that it's normally there by default when you buy a laptop. That C drive has all the information with regards to all the applications and stuff that are in your computer. So if you do research and actually learn, you'll figure out how to find passwords, right? You'll figure out how to find information about applications. You'll figure out which folders or which files or which zingine za kwanga like in notepad forms and binary forms and all that. So something that you can definitely find. When you get into some building, you're required to leave your ID. Is there a policy guiding disposal of such data? So yeah, someone is saying when you get into the buildings, you're asked to write your ID, your phone number in some old, probably torn book, that is there, some hardcover book, and then you always ask yourself, where does this data go? Who has control over this data, etc., etc. I mean, here's the thing: there's a legitimate reason for doing that, and this is just for security. It's not national security per se, just private security. Remember, most of the cases utapata in our own private buildings, not government buildings. You just get those officers there, security company that has been hired, G4S, and they tell you to keep these records. So there's a privacy security regulations, and I think it was updated, especially there was a case that happened. I can't remember. I think 2023 there. There's a case that was really trending. And then anyway, part of the discussion was this issue of writing these numbers, I mean, writing your details in a book. But there's a private security legitimate reason for doing that. What then I always say we can then do proactively is ask how are these books stored? Who has access to these books? Zinapelekwaga wapi? You know, but then you see, typically those officers there kwa your building entrance, they might not have the answers to that. That is probably they've been given instructions. That's how things they are supposed to be done. We don't know if the security company keeps the books or the building owners, the building management keeps the books, right? Who keeps those those records and who has access to them, things like that. So you can ask that the next time you visit. Just keep on asking and then figure out here if someone will give you this interesting thing, but there is a legitimate interest. And the best thing you can do, of course, the other thing you can do is um I've seen people putting in fake details, but the challenge in fake details is if it is your phone number, you might put a random phone number that belongs to someone else, right? It's not yours, belongs to someone else, right? Um, hiyo mtu akipigiwa ama akifuatwa na you would have caused harm to the other individual. What if you use an ID number that is fake and then is for someone else, right? And things like that. But of course, even with that, if an eventuality happens in terms of a security issue, remember they have cameras, they can trace your face, right? So those are alternative data that can be used to piece together a profile of who this person is. That record, you've record umeandika kwa kitabu. Yeah. Is it easy to hmm. Okay. How can I undo an app access? Please go to permissions. What field do you work on now, and do you have any insight in the data protection? We'll discuss data protection tomorrow, so be sure to join. And I also know the data commissioner will be joining, so I'll be sure to be there. So the emerging of quantum, do you think? Well, quantum computing is next level conversation, but yes, there's always pros and cons to any technology. Um, let me see. Is it possible to access an old account with two-step verification, but you lost the phone and the information to access an account? It depends. I'll tell you for sure. Right now, I have lost access to my Amazon account, not because it was breached or anything. No, I just details are forgotten, and they keep asking me, tell us your your physical address, your zip code. I mean, I can't even remember which zip code I used at that time, right? But anyway, here there are always recovery processes for most platforms. So they'll tell you you use your number, use your email, use your recovery number, recovery email, share with us your ID front and back if you want to verify this and that. They can tell you. Some still use security questions, but I guess very few at this point. Some will ask you for extra information, just to verify and validate who you are. So, things like that. So I will want to explore those options. Um, okay. So in some companies, employees are being required to have their own email account and must be linked to a specific company server so if you have a domain email here, by domain here we mean, for example, Sami at ecitizen.go.ke. Remember, you're working for that company and that's a business email. And there's a legitimate reason why you should have a business email, because you're part of that company, and when you're doing company communication, you will be using that business email. Yeah. But like I said, anything that is company given, it is likely can be monitored, right? So for example, if you're using the Google workspace, yeah, your Google admin can be able to do a lot of things with your account, right? Can delete your account, can push for you a password reset, can apportion which apps you use, which apps you don't use, and things like that. Email accounts can change hands, right? If an employee has left, that email can be apportioned to someone else. Remember, data can be transferred. There's certain data that can be transferred from email one to email two. So again, they're all these regional things. But remember, bottom line, always know that there is definitely monitoring that. Just typically, that's how the most platforms are set. There's some monitoring that can be done based on the capability of the email service you're using. Let me see how much time we have. Running out of time, but okay. Let's see what the chat has to say. Hmm. Let's look at the chat. I can't. Okay, there you go. Get PDF copies after the class. That I think the organizers would advise. Okay. For the purpose of communication. What is cybersecurity? I think in summary, what cybersecurity basically means, the protection of systems, data, people, processes, operations, with regards to an entity. An entity here, of course, like I've said, it can be an organization, it can be you as an individual. But the idea here is just protecting, all of these things. And I also mentioned by extension, cybersecurity can, when you talk about security, it does not just cover digital systems like laptops, PCs, servers. By extension, we have to think processes, we have to think people, we have to think even physical security, like what we've discussed, how people enter and exit a building. It might not be a building per se that might be given to security guards or security, the kawaida private security um, contractors, but it can be something like how you enter and exit a server room, or how you enter and exit certain places, those access controls, the biometrics, etc., including monitoring those and stuff like that. Uh, what about showing people your M-Pesa messages like in a matatu? Yeah, this one I know a lot of Kenyans ask themselves every day when you commute. Yeah, naambiwa onyesha M-Pesa message. That's a good one. Let me even throw in another question. When you get into a matatu, unaonanga zile matu kamera tunakuaga hapo juu zenye dereva huko anaona kama gari imejaa ama what is going on in the back. What do you think about that? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, let's look at the contents of an M-Pesa message. It has that unique code for that particular transaction. It has your account balance, right? Which I know you might not like someone to look at your account balance. Labda pesa ni mingi, and then unaweza kuwa threat bana. You can be a target, right? In that sense. But just a layman thinking, and this is my opinion, but you can think about it. The only thing that I know the conductor wants to verify is the name that of the account that you have paid to correct. If it is James Njogu, have you sent actually, has it brought back James Njogu? That means they would know enyewe imeingia kwa namba yake, you know, the money has been received in that authorized account. Yeah, you might want to block your account balance with your hand. I think that is very acceptable. And so as long as I may verify the name, or at least maybe even the number, if the transaction does not bring the name, I think that's really, and the amount, of course. If it is 70 shillings you're paying, so the name and the 70, you know, gear. I don't think they look for anything more than that. So block whatever, especially the account balance with your finger. I think that should be perfectly okay. Command, actually, I always write Chrome password extension. Oh yeah, someone has said Keeper. Yeah, Keeper Security. Keeper Security is a company that provides password manager and some other security tools. So you can check out Keeper Security. They mention things like one password, things like LastPass, etc., etc. If you Google will give you the first page of Google. You'll have some awesome, awesome tools there. Interesting comments. Sawa sawa. Don't have access to the internet, expires in a few. Okay, sawa sawa. I think good. Felix, if you're here, I think for me, I am wrapping up. The questions are so many, we can't address all of them.
Yes.
So I think we can just wrap it up. We can save the chat. I think there's some interesting. Anyway, so thanks everyone. That's my time for today. I hope it was helpful and meaningful. And please show up tomorrow. I think I've seen a lot of sentiments around data protection. It would be great to address those tomorrow. And like I said, the data commissioner will be joining tomorrow. So I'll do the presentation tomorrow, and then thereafter we'll also have the data commissioner to also give a lot of feedback and all of that. And so looking forward to see you guys kesho. Bye for now.
All right. Safest, you can hear me. Kindly confirm.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So thank you so much for that. That has been a serious enlightenment, and there is a lot to learn with the emergence of data protection, data act, and the rest. People really need to be aware of what they share and what they should share, to what extent they should go. And it will help us manage a lot of things, because right now there are things that are coming up. I saw a very good question on are our things even safe in the cloud? Yes. So you've talked about service. We have software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure. Now, I don't want us to be here longer. And I want us to break there, and then tomorrow we'll again join. And I can see there is an appreciation from everyone. So you're welcome again tomorrow, same time. And then it will also be engaging like the today's one. And you are all welcome to join tomorrow. So for now, I want to wish us a good evening and let's have a restful night. And all the best. I know we are going to apply. So thank you so much. If there is no more comments, okay, someone is asking about AI. We will all come to an agreement tomorrow about the AIs and the cloud stuff. So for today, let's call it a day, and then we meet tomorrow. So thank you so much, everyone, for showing up. Thank you for your taking a listen. I hope you've taken something home. Bye bye, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Thank you. 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 Now, let me end it for everyone. Then we meet tomorrow.